Texas Lutheran University.
It is homecoming weekend, the room is full, and I am thrilled to see so many people here. It's definitely going to be a fantastic weekend, and we're going to start it off with Amy Simmons. So for those of you who know a little bit about Amy, you certainly know about the ice cream and the legend of one of the great iconic brands, certainly in the Austin, San Antonio, and Houston area. What you might not know, Amy is a native of Ann Arbor, Michigan. And when she chose to go to college, she found her way to Boston, to Tufts University, where every good budding future entrepreneur goes to start to become pre-med. Along the way, Amy thought it would be a great idea to make a little money. She went to work for Steve's ice cream place. She bounced around in Steve's world for several years, finished college, biology and psychology.
That's right.
Yep. Again, traditional business protocol. And after working for Steve's for several years, she said, you know, I really think it's time for me to have a go at this. She identified that Austin, Texas was the place for store number one. That was 1984, and I was thrilled because I was soon to be a freshman at TLU. So shortly thereafter, Amy's Ice Cream was founded with the mantra, life is uncertain, eat dessert first. That fun mentality has now grown to 15 stores, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston, as well as Phil's Ice House for burgers. And if you find yourself in Smithville, stop by Honey's Pizza, also one of Amy's creations. It's interesting. Every day we sit there and we talk more and more about efficiency and automation, and yet then there's Amy, a complete throwback to the way life used to be, where humanity and humility intersect in a way that actually welcomes people into the Amy's Ice Cream world, to actually sit and have a real conversation with people amidst a world of ever-changing technology. It's been a fantastic ride for Amy and her entire team, and I can tell you that as much as she is a very competitive person and loves business, she loves her employees and she loves the people that are in her world even more. So I'm sure I could talk a whole lot about Amy and her world, but it's a lot more exciting if we have her come up and do so. Please help me welcome Amy Simmons.
Thank you, Dave. That was excellent. I didn't write that, but I could have written that. So can you hear me? Okay, sorry, I have to put my glasses on so I can see your faces. Thank you so much for having me. I did have to ask Dave, how do you get all these smiling faces in here on a Friday afternoon? It's usually when you take off, so so I'm very impressed. I started Amy's 32 years ago, and as Dave said, I was not bound for business. My mother was a PhD psychologist. My father was the vice president and corporate secretary for Burroughs Corporation, which became Unisys, and I thought I wanted to be a doctor because a doctor saves people. And you know, when you get to the end of your life and you want to look back, you want to be proud of yourself and have accomplished something. And to me, that was really contributing. Business, I thought, was really about making money. And frankly, I just didn't care about money. It's not that it's not important, it's that it's not a valid goal in and of itself. And so I really never considered business. So when I was in college, I was going to be a doctor. I studied, I worked at Harvard Primate Center. I worked at Tufts Medical School doing research, and it was fascinating, but it was, I was kind of a people person, and I was isolated, and so had I gone to a clinical situation, I'd probably be a doctor today. But I was real isolated, and when I went to the ice cream store, which is where I worked for money, somehow it really fed my soul. And I kind of didn't, you know, when you're young, you're aware of your feelings, or you're aware of being happy, but you're not really sure why you feel that way and what it is about it that's making you tick. And what I found out later is that something about ice cream you don't eat ice cream because you're hungry. You eat ice cream because you're sad. You eat ice cream because you just aced a test. You eat ice cream because you just failed a test. You ate ice cream with, on a first date because it's non-threatening. Your parents are in town, your grandparents are in town, you're eating ice cream. Amy's caters a lot of funerals because it's a time when people need to come together and bond and feel some kind of happiness in their community. And ice cream it's just something different. It's not food, in my opinion. And so when I worked at Steve's Ice Cream, I got to be a part of that. And really how it felt going to work every day. I preferred going to work than going out on Saturday nights. It was just being a part of people's lives. I had customers send me flowers, and it was incredibly unified group of people. So when I graduated and I was looking at the debt that I would take on for med school, I thought, maybe I'll just earn some money first. And really, I think it was fear of becoming an adult. And so I got the opportunity to move to Manhattan to open an ice cream store for Steve's. How many 20-year-old kids get the opportunity to move to Manhattan, have their own apartment and a job? I took it, I had a blast. I consider that the first Amy's Ice Creams, and that the owner of Steve's Ice Cream is really one of my mentors because he let me succeed and fail, but own the whole experience. And so I went around, I helped find the location, I helped work with the architect to design the store, I helped find all the suppliers, I set up the banking relationships. That was really difficult. I was searching for a garbage vendor, and I interviewed all these garbage companies only to find that in Manhattan it's really mafia run, and they're going to tell you who your garbage company is. But that was a great lesson learned, and I had a great opportunity to be exposed to that young. I didn't know everything. I had a real hard time with the banking relationships, but the way the guy who owned Steve's, his name was Joey Crignali at the time, handled it is he gave me credit for what I knew and freedom in the areas that I felt comfortable, and support where I didn't, and so that I learned. And so when it opened and it was Steve's Ice Cream, we got a big article in, I'm trying to think, it's a Long Island paper, but it's real prestigious. And Joey didn't put his picture on there, he put my picture in there. And it was just such a gift to me. It felt like my success. I was very proud of myself, and I would have done anything for that business. It was extremely successful in Manhattan. I went down to Florida and opened stores in Florida for them, and they sold the company. Now, things like culture, you guys heard culture and of organizations, very important. Nobody talked about culture in the early 80s. Nobody talked about culture. Well, this company that bought Steve's Ice Cream was a real estate company. They were starting, they were on the New York Stock Exchange. They were starting a restaurant division because the president's brother wanted a division to run. And culture left this unnamed culture left the building the instant they purchased that property. I'll tell you a story. It's a little, as my son says, it's a little inappropriate, Mom. But the guy, George Carter, I remember his name today. This is 35 years ago. He came in from Burger King. He's a multi-unit operator. At Steve's, I went to Tufts, but my peers at Steve's Ice Cream, schlepping ice cream for $12,000 to $14,000 a year. Harvard, MIT, Brandeis. I hired my assistant manager down in Florida, Yale graduate. Like schlepping ice cream for $12,000, $14,000. There's something magical going on here. So this guy comes in, and first of all, he ignores my assistant manager, Scott. What's your greatest resource in business, you guys? People. You cannot, it's the hardest thing in the world to find. People are motivated, people are intelligent, people are committed to the same things that you're committed to. So if you're about to rapidly grow an organization, which was their goal, I mean, if you're public, you better grow rapidly because that's how you're measured. And he better start, nurturing this next generation of leaders within the organization. Well, he ignores Scott, and he takes me and he says, well, Amy, have you been in the men's room recently? I go, no, the guys clean the men's room, but if it's not as clean as the women's room, it is because I haven't been in there, and you're right, cleanliness is very important in food service. I'll pay attention next time. No, come on in. Men go to the bathroom differently than women do, and you might be missing this rim that happens in the toilet in the men's room. This is my first exposure to this guy, this new leader of this organization. I knew immediately it's time for me to leave, and so maybe I better go back to med school. But the problem is I loved ice cream. I absolutely loved ice cream. My assistant manager absolutely loved ice cream. So we're like, we can do it better. And it's kind of, if you're entrepreneurs, then being an entrepreneur is seeing a problem and solving it. And the problem was, this was a great community establishment. It was way more important than an economic unit that was making X number of dollars. It was a meeting place. It was like the Starbucks of today, but McDonald's of yesterday. It was a training ground for young business minds, learning work ethic and what it means to show up on time and get paid and be a good team member to your partners. It was really an important thing beyond just schlepping ice cream and making whatever the business unit made. So we decided we were going to write a business plan. And again, that sounds really commonplace today, but in 1984, entrepreneurs and chefs were like dirt down there. We worked way too hard, and chefs were all sweaty in the kitchen, and so it was not a common thing. People weren't writing business plans. The SBA, Small Business Administration, was producing. They had started a group called SCORE, which was retired executives who had tons of knowledge and a lot of time. And so we went to visit these guys. They were full of information. And yeah, it was mostly guys at that time. But they were full of information and help. And they had created a template for writing a business plan. So we used that template, wrote a business plan. We were going to open in London, England. But we went over there. And the economy was flat. The weather was lousy. In England, you have to buy your lease up front. So we would have had to double the amount of money that we needed to raise. So in the US, you pay your first month's rent and 1 month rent down as a deposit. So a typical rent might be $4,000. You came up with $8,000 in capital just to secure your space. In England, it was going to be $100,000 because you're paying 10 years up front. So we want to start a business, but we don't want to take a ton of risk on. So we kind of came back thinking, our childhood dreams are broken. And we read an article on The Economist and the high-tech growth in Austin, Texas. And we are the evil carpetbaggers that moved down to Texas and created jobs. But I came down to Austin and fell in love. I was only here for 2 days. I know it's not here. Skiing is absolutely beautiful. It's very. I also live in Smithville, Texas, and the rolling drive here reminded me of Smithville, which is the most beautiful place. The people are so fantastic. But Austin, it's a liberal city in a conservative state, so a lot of creativity. There was a lot of entrepreneurial businesses in Austin. Really surprising, and being close to Austin, you kind of don't take it for granted relative to other cities in this country. From Michigan, lived in Boston, lived in New York, lived in Florida, but traveled many a state. My mother was afraid of flying. We drove a lot, and really, most cities are filled with chains. Back then it was the TGI Fridays. Austin, I don't think within the city of Austin there was a chain at that time. Like the P. Terry's versus In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger's not doing so hot. P. Terry's is flying. Austinites like local businesses. They support it. The economics of local business is that the money regenerates in your community so much faster and to the huge economic advantage of your city. So shop local if you can. There's great reasons for the Starbucks if you're in another town and you don't know where to go and you can count on the exact same cappuccino that you had somewhere else. That has value, but I really love the regionality of our country. So we went to Austin. So we wrote a business plan. I had $2,000 in savings. I'm Scottish. We always have savings. But Scott had no money. He's not Scottish. And so how are we going to open this business? We needed, even in the United States, we needed $100,000 to open the business. So we decided to write the business plan and raise money. We decided not to go to our friends or family because some crazy percentage, 95% of all small businesses fail in the first 5 years, and we didn't want our family mad at us. We needed our family to support us if we failed, because we wouldn't have jobs. And so we decided to go kind of arm's length. I love this story. I teach a lot of elementary school classes, and they get a real kick out of this one. That the person who gave me the money, the first amount of money, was the janitor at Steve's Ice Cream. He sent me a check for $5,000 and he said, send me some stock when you get some. So he had no idea how much of the company he was getting for it. And why do I tell this to elementary school students? I tell them to look at their pal next to them and they're all giggly and like, you know, that person might have the key to your happiness. Because the janitor, I have the best job in this entire country. One of the things I love about entrepreneurship is that it's never, ever boring. You work, I do leases, legal. I had a lawsuit against Amy's Organics because there was some confusion in our logos. So I got to work on that lawsuit. I work on leases. I work on HR and recruiting and motivation and building systems, customer service. I work with graphics. Oh, I never turned this on, did I? I'm sorry. I'm supposed to use the clicker. Oh yeah, there's my name. That's who I am, yeah. One of these things, I got an MBA, I'll tell you about that in a minute, but I'll leave that one up for 2 seconds. But so, tell me exactly where I was.
Leases.
Okay, leases. You get to work on all different sort of things. Graphics, you get to work in charitable organizations outside your company. You get to do marketing and PR. It is never, ever boring. It is so exciting because you get to touch on all those things. That's my family. So we wrote this business plan. Janitor gave us the first $5,000. The other investors were people who had done business with us. There were a lot of our customers down in Florida. But arm's length relationship people who knew that I was a hard worker, that Scott was a hard worker, that we were honest, and that we were going to do our best to make this thing work. And so raised $100,000, opened Amy's in 1984. We worked 80 hours a week, but it was a blast because we were doing exactly what we wanted to be doing. We opened our second store a year after our first store was opened. Back then, it's kind of hard, and now interest rates are about 4.5%, 5%. Enjoy this. Buy your homes, fund your businesses, because in 1984, interest rates were 18%. And could I get an 18% loan? No. I had to pay my shareholders 6% to fund my 18% loan. So I was paying loan shark rates of 24% to pay down the opening of my second store. The nice thing about that is that I was really motivated to pay that loan down. And so we paid it down very quickly. So Amy's grew, we never took on any additional debt. We grew all through kind of leveraged borrowing, creative borrowing. One my mother actually guaranteed, but we creative funding, and we grew Amy's. At one point, 3 years into it, my partner left after 2 years, which was real rough on me. He had started a company for his mom, a very ethical guy, and it was starting to go down, and so he moved to Florida and went back to work with her. But it left me in the tough situation of, I started it with a peer, and then I was running it myself. I told this story a little bit earlier that, I never had, you heard, I never had a business class. I certainly didn't know anything about accounting. I wrote the business plan, so I studied the financial statements, but I wasn't fluent in it. I went to a community college and took Accounting 1, Accounting 2, fell in love with it. How many of you guys love accounting? Some of you, but it's not going to be, if you take the general population, what percentage do you think says, oh, I love accounting, this is the most fun thing I've ever done? So turned out I absolutely loved accounting. I thought it was going to be super dry. I thought it was going to be no creativity, no flexibility. It's so flexible. It's such an academic study. And And I'll get to why that's been really relevant after in a second, but I really, really embraced it. So I started really learning my financial statements, my income statement, my cash flow statement, my balance sheet, really understanding the impact on my organization. And I really managed those financial statements very carefully on a daily basis. And that's what really allowed Amy's to survive over the years, because we've had probably 3 major recessions that have hit us over our 32 years. We're going to hit one, in my opinion, in 2019, between 2019 2021. So, we're getting prepared. So 3 years into it, Scott's gone. I go, well, I was supposed to go to med school. I'm supposed to make people well. What am I doing? And what I realized is 3 things were appealing to me about this business. One was the employees. I am now 56 years old, and I'll tell you, my peers, I am so much, mentally younger than they are, because I get to work with like you guys, people like you, and that are creative and innovative, and you're learning in a current environment, and they hold me accountable learning in a current environment. And so that's for me, for my selfish needs in life, that ability to get to work with bright, creative, challenging minds. I'm not saying it's easy, but it was a huge plus for me. It really fed what I needed in my world. Second of all was the customers. Like I said, I'll tell you tear-jerking stories. A woman came in with 2 boys, and she was in actually that store. She was in that Burnett Road store, and they weren't really getting along. And she's like, the employees, our mission statement is to make people's day. And it's not to make the customer's day, it's to make the employee's day, to make your day, to make the postman's day, to make the salesperson who's calling you and bugging you 27 times day. It's to make people's day, because that's what ice cream does. It makes a difference in people's lives. So this woman was, there was some sadness, there was something going on, some tension, some sadness. So the employee really started engaging them. And by the end, they were all engaged, and they left, and they were happy. And it was enough that he remembered working with this woman. And I got a letter, and the letter was from her, and she had just married their father, and so those were her new children. And so it was a merged family, and that's always difficult. And they had not accepted her at all. Well, right after they got married, her husband was diagnosed with cancer, and they had just come from the hospital, visiting her husband, their father. And they weren't unified, and they didn't know how to share and how to feel sadness together and cope together. And she said that interaction in the ice cream store, and I'm tearing. It's that interaction in the ice cream store is what brought them together. So that was number 2, to be able to live a lifetime of those moments and being a part of people's lives and impact in that kind of way was priceless. And much more important than even being a doctor sometimes. Maybe I could make a bigger impact than I could have as a doctor. And then number 3 is charitable work. So we chose from a real early time not to have an advertising budget. We're very creative, so we do a lot of guerrilla advertising. This sign is guerrilla advertising. That sign actually rocked, it caught on fire a couple of times, so we had to shut it down. But it was a real creative project that we did with a neon artist in Austin. So we didn't advertise, but we spent that same budget doing charitable work, getting our people and our product out in the community and doing charity. And so it was great for us, it was great for the community, it built strong relationships, and we had a reputation as being a very connected company. To this day, the love for Amy's in Austin especially, but Houston, San Antonio too, is much stronger than just that one, we're schlepping ice cream, it's just an ice cream store. The love is there. So when I realized it was those 3 opportunities, and we as individuals can do charitable work, and we have to, and that's really important, but ice cream was a really easy vehicle for doing charitable work. It makes we sponsor what we paid to finish out a room in the Children's Oncology Center at Dell Medical Center. But we wrapped it, like they have immune system problems when they're going through their chemotherapy, so they can't really be out in the communities a lot. So we want to make it feel like they were in an ice cream store if they couldn't go to the ice cream store. So we wrapped this treatment room so it feels like it actually goes black and white with kind of the medical stuff, like the cotton balls and stuff, and then it goes into color, and it's jars of M&Ms, and so it's just. And then we made all these games, and we created this board that they could play these games while they're going through the treatment. And then we supply them, not just the kids, but their families, the nurses, the doctors, with ice cream constantly. We've been doing that about 15 years, I think. Where do you get that opportunity in life? You know, and ice cream is a really easy thing to give away. So that's really why we ended up, I ended up staying in business and didn't leave at some point to go be in medicine again. So 15 stores, 32 years. My peers are very successful. I'm extremely competitive. I am the first female professional boxer in the state of Texas. I did that so I could tell you guys that today, but really for my but really for my grandkids. But it's the truth. I ran marathons. I was a rower. I just love sports, triathlons. I'm very, very competitive. My husband and I, we had to put an end to it. We used to race to work to see, we were getting dangerous, but to see who would get there faster. So why do I only have 15 stores? Because what's the measure of success in this country? Number of units, dollars, gross, your gross revenue. When I went and met with my friends I don't see very often, they'll be like, Amy, how many stores do you have now? Your inclination was to say, I have 50, I have 100, I have 200. I am capable of creating a nationwide chain of ice cream stores that does whatever gazillion dollars in sales. I am capable of doing that. I know how to duplicate it. I know how to build systems. We made a conscious choice to say, okay, if these are the things that we love about our business, and I'll say I discovered it, but I discovered it with my team, and then we think we can do this better small. We think we can make a better impact. Our goal is to be 100 years old, not 100 units, and that means it's got to survive me, and it's got to be relevant beyond me and beyond this era. So that's our goal. We created, we are very driven, like I said, so we're always doing something. We opened Phil's Ice House, which is, Amy's now is probably 11 million in sales. Phil's is probably 6 million in sales. We opened Honey's Pizza because we love Smithville. It's a Neapolitan. We make our own dough, and we make our own mozzarella. We make our own sauce. And wonderful environment. And again, same feedback back to us when we created Honey's in Smithville was the community said we didn't have a meeting place. Like, we had 3 tables next to each other. They were all neighbors that lived within 2 miles of each other, and they had never met. They obviously didn't have kids. You meet your neighbors when you have kids, but they were retired and they had never met, and they started doing these dinner parties, these roving dinner parties. It's community building, and it's just huge, and it feels wonderful. It feeds your soul, and on my deathbed, I'm happy. So then the other really important thing that we're doing, and this is really relevant to you guys, is that I found this passion for finance, but everybody doesn't. And the people, our application process is we give you a white paper bag and we tell you to be as creative as possible. So if you don't really want to work at Amy's, you're putting that bag in the trash. And so people, what we find when we do that is that, number one, we get incredibly creative applications. But number two, we get people who really are vested in working at Amy's, and they put effort in, even if they're not artistic. That's my favorite, is the people who don't have obvious artistic skills. Creative effort that they put. Like, one guy took a picture of him in his bag, all, at Barton Springs, and here's me in my bag at the Capitol, and we get to look at these incredibly creative applications, but also kind of get to the heart of people. And then when they get jobs, because they put that a little bit of themselves into that bag, their affiliation with the company is really strong. So we get a lot of eclectic people, and I worry about young people today because there's no obvious path to, what am I going to be when I grow up? It's just not as obvious as it used to be. And jobs aren't forever, and so you're bouncing around. And so we have a lot of kids who are creative. They just don't know where to, they're bright. They don't know where to put their energy. We have, if I had this group of our folks, 85% of them would raise their hands when you said, who has said, I am not good at math? They don't think they have that skill set. They don't think they're going to business school. So what happened is they're really smart, and I see it on a daily basis. I know they're intelligent. We read this magical book called, got your pens out? The Great Game of Business by Jack Stack. And what it is that Jack Stack, he worked for International Harvester in the very not sexy business of major remanufacturing, major farm equipment. And they were losing their jobs, and International Harvester was going to put this unit down, but he and his peers, they all worked for him, and they didn't want to lose their jobs. And Springfield's, is limited jobs. It was kind of depressed. So what he did is he leveraged. He said, if you want a bad loan, he knew he was making a bad loan. He got a $9 million loan on $100,000 worth of assets. He said, if you want a bad loan, go find a bad bank. But he got a loan for $9 million. He said, I don't know how I got the loan. I couldn't pay back that loan. And so he goes in there and he realizes that this company is sub-optimizing their resources, because each different department of that company was trying to, maximize their own role, but they didn't see the whole picture of how the company worked together. So what he did is he's like, these guys say they're not good at math, but you get a batting average out, they can all figure out what happens when you strike out. Well, how's that going to affect that guy's batting average? They can figure that out. That's pretty sophisticated math. So what that's saying is math just wasn't relevant to them. So of course business math isn't relevant to them. We think, oh, that's my day one. So we think that that the business owner, well, I run into a lot of people that think gross revenue is what I'm putting in my pocket. So if I tell you I'm doing $11 million and Amy's getting $11 million, and she's going to definitely buy a new house. So what? We got to pay our people, we got to pay our rent, we got to pay, and I know you guys know that, but the general population doesn't know that. And so to really understand costs, understand revenues, understand that even on your net income, we had last year, I think we had an earnings of $983,000. We only cash flowed $200,000. So what's the difference? What happens between our income statement and that cash? Well, we're paying tax. We have a loan to repay. We're capital improvements. We opened a new store. So what I found is that there was a real language barrier between me and the employees in terms of understanding how businesses function. And so the Great Game of Business is a way that parallels a game to business. And it's fun, it's a blast, and it's understandable, and it's relevant, and people care. And so we embrace that, and we play that. We've been playing it about 10 years. So 10 years ago, we had 13 stores. Now we have 15 stores. We doubled our gross revenue with only 2 additional units. We tripled our net income. That is not me. That is our employees. They're making everyday, real, major business decisions. And it's a lot of work. That's them at the huddle. It's a lot of work to teach. We have to teach teachers. It's a huge part of our culture. We defined our culture. We have our mission statement, which is to make people's day, and we defined our principles under that. We attract people who share those same principles. When we win the Great Game, they create a plan. They're in the middle of this huge plan. Hourly people are creating the plan for our organization. Hourly people know how much we spend in repair and maintenance, how much we spend in small wares, what the wiggle room is for raises, because it's huge right now. Cost of living in Austin's awful. And what are our goals? We're really going to try and raise wages by this. So how are we going to get that done? They're involved with making that plan for next year. And then if you win the Great Game, you have to share the rewards, because it's not enough for Amy to make more money. and the shareholders. It's we look at there's four people, stakeholders in Amy's. There's the employees, there's the customers, there's the shareholders, and there's our suppliers. We negotiate our prices down in suppliers so that business can't survive. We're not going to have the quality products that we want to have to produce Amy's ice cream. If our employees aren't happy, we're not going to have happy, smiley, good customer service people to work with. And my whole joy working with the employees, I need them to be happy. It's important. Customers, if you raise the prices so that you give raises to your employees, and then your customers, family of four can't afford to bring their kids in for ice cream, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're not going to last very long. And the hardest one to understand is the shareholders, because we hear a language in this country like Enron and the pharmaceuticals that the shareholders, greedy shareholders, are making this unusual return. Shareholders, if they don't make a return on their investment, they are not investing in your small business. And how many of you guys want to open your own small business someday? That's a lot of you, and they're not going to invest in you unless they can make a reasonable return. They need to match the risk to the return. So every decision that we make, we have to consider those four stakeholders, and I don't do it, they do it. Like Problem Solve. It's a very beautiful program. Read up on it. I'm a huge zealot, open book management. I became friends with Jack Stack. I just came from being in Springfield, and we said, Jack, tell me, what's the evil secret about the great game of business? What do you think is wrong with it? What's the flaw? And he said, the only flaw I can see is I don't understand why every single company in this entire country doesn't do it. We're all in it together, and to understand that is really critical. So Dave, if I show a 6-minute video, am I okay? I'm okay with you guys' time? Yeah?
Fed 'em ice cream.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay. So from the Great Game, this was from 2 years ago, but this is an hourly employee created this to try and convey the year-end finances to the employees. That's our prom. We have a prom every year. It's a trick contest. It's a benefit for a housing, underprivileged housing department. Oh, it's 3 years ago, sorry.
And welcome to the company-wide huddle recap for 2013. I'm Aaron M. Clay.
And I am Kara Marshall. And as you guys know, our company-wide huddle got canceled recently due to really icy conditions.
And we wanted everyone to be as safe as possible. So why did we win? How did we win? And what's the story behind the numbers?
But first, who are we? My name is Kara Marshall. I am the store manager of the Hill Country Galleria. I am the events coordinator for the company, and I'm also co-facilitator of the company-wide huddles, and I've been here for about 4 years.
And I'm Aaron Clay, and I've been with the company for about 4 years, and I also serve as a co-facilitator for the company, White Huddles, and I also am the marketing guy, and I work on our donations and our online store. And so, Kara, I want to know, what's your favorite sea creature?
My favorite sea creature is the mimic octopus. What's yours?
The know-all. Let's start by looking at the previous quarter. That's the last 3 periods of the year. Let's start with sales.
So for sales for quarter 4, our plan was $1.2 million, and we actually came in at $1.14 million, not quite there.
And for cost of goods sold, our plan was 26.27%, and we actually came in at 26.82%, a little bit over.
But it's not bad, it's not bad. All right, so for labor for quarter four, our plan was 29.45%, and we came in our actual with 31.49%. I kind of missed it on the mark there.
Well, it's not always bad if your labor is a little higher. Right, Kara?
Good.
They're
That's right. You
subliminally
wanna make
selling.
sure that you're staffed appropriately so your store has super awesome customer service and it's very squeaky clean. But you don't want so many people on shift where there's not enough work to go around for everyone. So make sure you're managing your labor either way.
Sounds like a good plan.
And this is what we're playing the game for. Sales minus expenses equals net income. Net income is what we have left over at the end of the quarter. So let's take a look back at quarter four and see how we did.
So for our net income for quarter four, we plan to lose $53,681. Wait, what? Why did we plan to lose money?
That's a great question. As you guys know, in November and December, our sales slowed down, but our expenses remain the same. That's why holiday items and chocolate-covered strawberries are so important during the cold months.
I see. So if we lose less money than we plan to, we still win the game.
Yes.
Got it. So we plan to lose $53,000, but we actually lost $39,945. That's an amazing difference.
Wait a minute, so we won?
Not only did we win quarter four, but let's celebrate all the wins from 2013 as a whole year. Starting with sales. Our plan was to make $6.4 million, and we actually did $6.7 million.
And our cost of goods sold was equally as awesome. Our plan was 26.29%, and we actually came in at 25.43%.
And for labor, our plan was 27.5%, and our actual was 27.43%.
So remember, sales minus expenses equals net income. Here's how we ended up for the entire year. Our plan was $695,000, and we actually came in at $855,000, well above our plan.
Man, 2013 was a lot of hard work, but it was definitely worth it.
Absolutely. And I noticed something, and that was my bonus check was a little bit beefier than before.
Yeah, speaking of that, why don't we review on how we did the sports money?
Sounds like a good idea.
Sports money is an extra level bonus for us to work for after we made our great game bonus. For every $10,000 we didn't lose, we got to split it amongst ourselves. Let me show you this visual aid to explain what I mean. So in period 11, we made just over $30,000 in net income, which is amazing. Then in period 12, we lost $46,000, which was $16,000 more than planned. Then in period 13, we lost $111 less than we planned to, bringing us up just over the $10,000 mark, making our bonus pool $10,000 deeper.
So we had a pretty amazing year, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, 2013 was pretty great.
And I bet 2014 is going to be even better because we have a lot of awesome things to look forward to.
No, I think that'll go away. So the cool thing about that is, number one, I didn't touch that. I didn't touch that information. I didn't touch conveying it to people. I saw it on Facebook like they did. And to be able to go from a company where I was the only voice who had the understanding of the finances and the responsibility and the weight of making payroll and surviving every year and explaining to people why raises were scarce in particular years, why we needed to have a price increase. Every person in the organization understands how that company runs. And I'll tell you, we teach 35 hours of non-ice cream related classes. We teach personal finance, we teach leadership, we teach customer service, but not specific to our organization, just what it means to give customer service in your life. And I think I hit all of those. And then a production class that teaches about producing ice cream. We call it MB Amy's. And we have many parents. There's a flyer over there if you're interested. It's not relevant to you, but it's relevant to just see, what we're doing within the organization. We get parents who say, I tried, entrepreneurial parents who say, I really tried to teach my kid. My kid's like, no. And then he's coming home to me at night and saying, Mom, did you know that, if you increase sales, that 70 cents on every dollar goes straight down to the bottom line after you hit fixed costs. She's like, oh. It's mind-blowing. So that's really where our mission is now. I'm wearing this t-shirt because we play games in the Great Game of Business, and I get points for wearing this t-shirt in front of you guys. So I was a little embarrassed when I saw how well Dave and all of his team is dressed, but I get points, and that's really important to me. So that's Tito. That's Tito Beverage is to the right of me there. It was Tito's who's Tito's Vodka. It's Tito's 15th anniversary, and we made a flavor for him called Tito is the Dude, because he's just like the Big Lebowski. And so we threw a party for him, and it said, Dude. But so I get points for this t-shirt. We started Amy's EDU last year. It is a separate organization. We have 4 partners. I'm one of them, and 3 others were pulled from the organization. That's Tito. What we're doing is we're teaching customer service, we're teaching leadership, we're teaching speaking with confidence, and we're teaching, most importantly, the Great Game of Business to other companies. We got our dream job, which was the city of Austin. We went after because the permit department, those guys were not very nice. And it was our dream job to try and teach them customer service. And they were so worried because they thought, they were all under the impression that we were going to come in and say, okay, work harder and smile more. But the way we focus on it is to focus on them and their job satisfaction and the stresses they had in their job and how the team worked together. And that was probably, that first City of Austin job was probably about 6 months ago. Lasting changes. They hugged, that's my husband Steve. We were on The View. So Amy's is a little tiny company, but we've been on Giada and The View and got People Magazine top 5 ice creams in the country. We were in Newsweek, Wall Street Journal, Inc. Magazine, Wired, Fast Company. It's not difficult to get your story out if you tell it in an unusual way and if you work from your principles and the things that are important to you. But so our real mission now is education. It's sharing the language of business and how it works for everybody, and how it's not greedy and evil, and it's a partnership in communities. And we also are trying to create a fund where we microfund business people who we get exposed to, so that we can help young people start their own businesses. So that's kind of the story, and I was going to talk for a little bit and then have you ask questions. So I talked a lot. So, do you guys have any questions? See ya. No.
As you were expanding to those 15 stores that you have now, how were you able to keep that competitive advantage and that culture that you had within all those stores? I mean, and then when you were expanding, did you have a specific monetary goal, and then you're like, okay, now it's the next one, or was it just, how did you know when to add another one?
So I have never been driven by monetary goals. And so now, obviously, the Great Game is monetary goals, and that does create a lot of problems. And it did at the beginning in our organization, because they're like, Amy, I thought you didn't care about money. I thought it was making people's day. I said, yeah, but every dollar we sell, if we do 10% better, that's 10% more people that voted with their dollar, that this is the place they want to have their experience. And so that's really the language is around that. Obviously we have goals of got to cover our expenses. Everybody wants a raise. Maintaining culture. I think my greatest skill is, and later the name was put on it, but I practice and really try and learn, and it's going to be a life journey, but servant leadership, where your job really is to coach and allow other people's skills to shine through, and help them be successful. And I did that kind of innately. My mother's a psychologist, and I think it's how she raised me, but that really worked for everybody. Was on the same page, everybody had common values, and so it really was just a growing inspirational family. We've always celebrated, a lot of those pictures were from our proms. We have a prom every year. We have a king and a queen, and we celebrate, that's prom. We celebrate everybody's, like fastest scoop, best customer rep, like kindest, best charitable, contribution. So all the things that we value, we have an award for, and it's celebrated, and it's really important to them. And we also have reunions. So we are a 32-year-old company. We've had a gazillion people through Amy's. They've gone everywhere and been incredibly successful. And it is really stressful graduating college and getting out there and pirate prom. And so we created a network of employees, and we have every 5 years we have reunions. And you'd be really surprised. Like people come back and they say, I didn't go to my high school, I'm not going to my college, I go to my Amy's. My schleppin' ice cream reunion. And we had 250, the last one was 2 years ago, we had 250 people fly in for it. It's a blast, it's celebration, it's like a fraternity or sorority, it's a lifetime group of friends. So that really started early, and that drove great decision making. We had terrible stresses. Sorry, I'm a storyteller. We were in Highland Mall, and we were in there for a while. It was a super profitable unit. And our employees, George Bush called them irreverent, and it's true. They're a little irreverent. We try and reel them in, making people's day is different to everybody. It might be, being kind of funny with somebody, but it might be just being really efficient and courteous in your service to somebody else. So we study all that. We've studied with Stephen Covey, we studied with Disney, we studied with a company called Zingerman's. We put a lot into it. But at Highland Mall, we've been warned a couple of times. I was like, reel it in, guys, reel it in, guys. There's a cost to freedom sometimes. And they thought that they were reeling it in, but evidently they were riding a bike through the downstairs of the mall and having somebody upstairs toss ice cream. So it was Andrew. Andrew caught it while riding the bike through the mall. We got kicked out. And so that was our really profitable unit. And all of a sudden, we had opened 2 new stores in Houston, and they cost overruns, and they weren't doing really well just out of the gate. And so all that happened at once, and I wasn't able to make payroll. I was gonna not be able to make payroll. So it's not been this, and it never is. It's this. There's another thing I like to say. So if you are a doctor and you expect that every one of your patients are going to come in healthy, and you get to work in the day, every one of those patients all day long, they were sick. At the end of the day, you're going to be exhausted, right? Well, if you are a small business person or a business person in general, and you expect not to encounter problems, then by the end of the day, you're going to be exhausted and you're not going to like your job. But if you get that what you are is a problem solver, and you take pride in that, by the end of the day, you're accomplished and successful, and it feeds your energy instead of takes it away. So that's kind of been the game. Did I answer that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yellow, and then I'll do white.
So with that exhaustion, how did you balance that with having your family?
Yeah, great question. My line has always been that I broke down the barrier between home and work. So my kids are with me. If we go solve a problem, they're with me doing it. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's how I did it. So I got a lot of time with them. The disadvantage is you work kind of harder and longer, but the advantage is you have a lot of flexibility in your job. So, when I had Emma, I only took 2 weeks off. She was my first, but I have Emma 21, Olivia 19, and Henry 12. And, but I then stayed home and worked from home for about 3 months. So I went in when I needed to, Emma's my side. My great friend and business manager, Amy Arnold, she has a 5-year-old. He's been there every day of his work life since the beginning. My kids couldn't because they were like a little colicky, but James is the sweetest. He's enhanced our office. So we just try and be friendly. We try and be flexible. My kids, there was a little bit of like their friends were stay-at-home moms, and were helicopter circling, and I wouldn't bring their paper that they left at home, and they're going to get an F on it. I'm like, geez, you got to learn to bring your paper in. I'm sorry, but I'm at work, and there's a real cost to me coming there, and so you're going to have to participate in this. And they learned that lesson, and they were really unhappy growing up with it. But both of the girls have thanked me. Henry's an angel. He's just always thanks me every day. I'm just got lucky, but.
Is your husband in your business with you, or?
He is, yeah. He wasn't at the beginning. The girl's dad passed away, and Steve is Henry's dad, and the girl's stepdad. And he came in. We got married later, and so he's been in about 15 years. We started. We also have a fairly big real estate company. We got real worried in Austin because the real estate costs were going way up, and we were worried about small business. And so what we did is we save our money, and downturns we buy properties, and then we call them Austinvilles, and we only lease to local companies, and we lease below market rates. And the idea is really so Soup Peddler, Thundercloud, there's a great place called Papalote, incredible interior Mexican tacos. We lease to them and create the synergy of a center, and that everybody's more successful because of it. So then we've insulated ourselves against rent. My husband's a real estate guy, so I had bought 2 properties, but I wouldn't have done it to the extent without him. We're really beautifully balanced in our abilities. Yes.
So I've got 2 questions. One of them's really quick. What's your favorite ice cream flavor, and how did you come up with your application process?
So favorite ice cream flavor is Belgian chocolate with Reese's peanut butter cups crushed in. It's been my favorite. When I was pregnant, my husband had to break in the middle of the night. That's what he got. Yeah, it's been my consistent favorite. But I love trying new flavors. That's one of the really fun things. We have a lot of vegetarian customers, and so our employees wanted to make a bacon flavor, and I was like, no, I don't think we better do that. And I was out of town, they made a bacon flavor, and it was really, really popular. So that one is incredible. But and then paper bag application, it's like most great ideas. Like our employees toss ice cream, they do tricks. They don't do it all the time, but if they want to, they do, and they're really unbelievable at it. Throw it across the street, across buses, and so it's a big thing. Young and old people really like, you can catch your ice cream. Sometimes it splats on your jacket, and then we'll pay your cleaning fees. But if your ice cream falls on the ground, we make you another one but it's fun, it's interactive. So they created this trick. It's called Trick Olympics, and they compete every year, and they do it for CASA. And they raise money for CASA. I had nothing to do with it, and they have such a blast. But so the answer to the question was, how did the application process start? Recognizing a good idea. I ran out of applications. I handed a girl a white paper bag. She made she got a helium balloon, and she made a basket out of it. In that basket was pictures of her and her dog, some of her Girl Scout badges, things she had pride around, and things she loved, and it was so expressive and told me so much more about her than the dry application would, that I was like, hey, let's do this. Yes, sir, and then I'll go back there.
Are your flavors store specific, and how do you choose those?
Yeah, that's a little bit hard because we've made over 2,000 flavors, but in constant rotations about 400. So we try to keep our ice cream really fresh, so there's only 15 ice creams in the store at one time. And we're really working on alternative ice cream, so vegan and ices, which I didn't bring any today. I'm very sorry. But so they rotate. The stores kind of collect feedback from their customers about what their favorites are, and so those flavors get stronger rotations in that store. So it is very specific to the area. If you ever want a flavor, you can just you can email me or Joe at amysicecreams.com or Amy at amysicecreams.com. Takes us about 2 days to make the flavor. We'll get it out to you. If you forget to come in, you're fine. If you want to buy a tiny, you're fine. But we'll make sure and get whatever flavor you want in the stores. But it is a bummer because like key lime pie, I love key lime pie, and you go into the store and it's not there. I had it last time. It was so good. So, yes, sir.
Amy, I'm Robert Thompson. I've been in business a long time for myself, so I'm hearing great things, and I think your story is tremendous. I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
In the moments before you made the final decision, what made you so sure you could do it? Second question is, can you tell us 2 people that supported you doing that no matter what?
Yeah.
And you don't have to think about that, I'm sure.
No, I don't, but yeah, they're both beautiful questions. I thought you were supposed to give me the hard ones.
I try to make them interesting,
Yeah,
ones,
yeah,
not
they're,
hard ones.
no, they're really good. So I didn't think that I could do it. I was just, it was great being, I was 23 when I opened Amy. So it was great being 23 because I had nothing to lose. I didn't have a family. You know, if I failed, I had to go get a real job or I had to go back to med school. I happened to not take any money from my parents. My parents, you know, were very conservative. You know, money was for education, but they raised us to be really independent, and I didn't want any strings, and so I didn't want any of their money. My dad got mad later. He's like, "It was a really good investment. How come you didn't let me in?" But I really. It never occurred to me if I'd fail or not fail. I just, you know, it was a problem that needed solving, and I was putting everything I had into it, and I was just going to be open ears and learning and have curiosity and just try my hardest. So I definitely didn't know I didn't think I'd fail, but I definitely didn't think I'd succeed either. And then in answer to people that were always there for me, my business mentors, so Joey Crignali, you know, just that belief in you when you're a young person, you don't know anything, and that he can give you the ability to open that store in Manhattan. I mean, that just did so much for my self-esteem and my self-confidence. And then my mother is she passed away, but she's pretty miraculous. She, you know, we're a very academic family, and when I didn't go to med school, and I said, "Hey, Mom, you know, I really like scooping ice cream," and she said, "I'm so proud of you." It was just insane. It's the best parenting lesson I could possibly ever get. My daughter is a writer and a poet. She's really, really good, and she talks about how much negative feedback is out there in the world for creatives. And how, you know, people, you better have a backup plan, you better get a real job, they know it. They know it's a struggle. It's worth it. We want creatives in this country. What would we be without it in this world? And so it's a lesson I really have to remember every day. It's just, you know, support social, people who want to go into social services, teachers. It's all part of the same puzzle. So my mom and Joey. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oop.
What is the future of Amy's Ice Cream? You said you don't want to have like 50 or 100 locations. You plan to sell it all?
No, guess where I met Dave? I met Dave at an ESOP convention, or a seminar. And ESOP stands for Employee Stock Ownership Plan. So my dream, and Jack Stack just went 100% ESOP. Jack Stack, because you're a Jack Stack fan, he's the guy who has SRC, Springfield Remanufacturing Company. They're $60 million. And he's a little older than me, and you know, he really wants it to survive, and the Great Game gives the tools for it to survive. Now it's all owned by the employees. So that's my plan, is to turn it into an ESOP. An ESOP is basically a 401k, 100% invested in your own firm. So and the employees, you know, you get stock ownership in it as you leave. It's that, you know, the gap between where you got it and where it was when you left it is your return. So it looks like equity. So that's my goal, is to become an ESOP, but it's really to just continue driving. And our group is so good at developing leaders, teaching teachers, stepping out of the way, and allowing people to shine. So you see the layers of talent in the organization is phenomenal. So I think it's self-sustaining. And then we do definitely talk a lot about relevance. We don't want to survive if we're not relevant. And it's hard to understand how you can change with times. You have to have a rudder. You have to have that rudder, and the rudder for us is our values. And and then remain relevant. You know, what are dietary? How are people changing the way they're eating? How are people changing where they go to, you know, to celebrate and to have experience, and how can we evolve with that but not lose our values? Yeah.
What metrics or measurements do you use to determine how you pay yourself? Similarly, how do you determine how do you pay your employees?
So pay myself, I've probably done a poor job of doing that. No, I mean, I make a decent living, but I don't like raises because I'd rather the money went to somebody else. I'm properly compensated. I live in a great house. I drive a nice car. My children are going to college. I don't, you know, I feel like I can invest in my children. My father saved money for my children to go to college. I go, oh yay, I can start spending now. Then I go, oh man, darn it, like if he took care of the next generation, I guess I gotta I'm saving for my kids, college education, but man, that's all I need. And so I don't take more. Metrics, the great game is a percentage of payroll that gets shared with them over. We have 4 quarters, so let's say it's $50,000. It's been, you know, it's up because payroll has increased as we've grown, but it's the first quarter it's a $5,000 bonus, second quarter it's $10,000, $15,000, and then $20,000, and you can lose quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and win with a Hail Mary, which they did not in 2014 they won with a Hail Mary. They were losing through quarter 3. My quarter just ended. This year they lost quarter 1, quarter 2. Quarter just ended $925. They won by $2,000. So we're passing out $35,000 in bonuses. It's the numerator is how much you made that period. The denominator is total compensation. That percentage of 35 is your bonus, but it's a real bonus. Even, you know, obviously hourly people. And then salaried employees, we don't share. So Great Game, one of the things that people get the freakiest about is that I can't show people what I'm making. You know, that's just going to create a lot of problems. And I would show people. I'll tell you, I make $150,000 at Amy's, but I also have Phil's and I also have the real estate company, so I make money elsewhere. And I'm happy to, I do tell everybody at Amy's, but they don't want to tell their wages. And so they create, you know, we have a discussion, what is the wage pool? We don't have, the part of the planning process and the way it's developed is that there's a discussion about what the administrative wage pool is, and they decide what the administrative wage pool is. And then allocating it, there's some discussion about new positions. Is there any position you see that has really changed so much in this year that it needs a non-normal boost? And then hiring from external is really difficult because we find, you know, we raise people up in the organization, those wages are a lot lower than they are if somebody comes in from the outside. So that really disrupts it. We have open discussions about what does this look like, what do we do about it. It's great when it's a discussion because there's no right answer. You have to figure the best answer for your organization and just people knowing that you're treating it fairly. It's not something that happens in a closet. Another thing I heard that I really like, it resonates with me, is that in the absence of information, people make up a number or a situation, and that's usually way worse than it really is. So if you show finances and it looks like you're making 800, they probably thought you were making 2 million. Yes, ma'am.
So, would you consider your company to be, like, it's not about making profit, it is about making people stay, it's more of the social investment in this. So, I wanted to know how you determine the metrics on that. How do you know that you're making a difference? Do you have a way to know, like, from year to year that you're making more or less of a difference in the community and creating and making people stay? Are you able to measure that?
Yeah, I mean, we have phenomenal customer feedback. We have a Dear Amy on our website, which we get so much feedback, and you know, a lot of it's negative. But I think literally in the last 20 years, we've not been able to recover one customer. out of thousands of complaints. So we get complaints. We love complaints. We love them because it's the biggest challenge in the whole wide world. That customer cared enough about you to give you feedback. And we just, I mean, our employees just like to think of creative ways to get people back, and then they become zealots. We used to turn our complainers into secret shoppers. So somebody complained, so they obviously were discriminating enough to complain, right, and communicate with you. So we turn them in. Would you be willing to give us an assessment of how we do next time? Like, we'll give you a gift certificate, or we'll pay for your ice cream. You come in and then write an assessment of how we did. The problem with that we had with that is we turned people around so much that every single one of those secret shopper reports was like, oh my God, you're so good, everybody was wonderful. So it was really no longer discriminating because they were turned in. You probably know that, The Ultimate Question and Promoters. Do you guys know that book, The Ultimate Question? It's there's some kind of trends in business. The 1 to 10 scale, would you recommend this product or service to a friend or associate? Is the one question a lot of companies are asking you now. And if you're in the 8 to 10 range, then you're a promoter. That's somebody who's going to talk about your business in a positive way, market you. If you're in the middle, you're neutral. If you're below, you're a detractor. We go to 11 because we watch Spinal Tap. Only us middle-aged people get that joke, but yeah. So we measure all the time. We have, in the Great Game, non-tangibles. So how many customers were we able to recover? They'll measure number of customers that they went above and beyond to make their day. They call them happy cow, sad cow, I think. And sales are a huge metric of how you're making people's day. And so I think that's on the store level, that's how they're measuring it. If their sales are increasing, then they're making more people's day. Yeah. Okay, since you're running, we're going to go back.
What did you learn from what happened at Bluebell?
Man, I felt awful for them because I love that company. They're professional, clean. That happened to them despite everything that they did. It could have happened to any company. We are luckily, they're continuous freezer. When you mass produce ice cream, you use a freezing system that's closed. And so when you do small batch ice cream like us, it's an open system. So you make a batch of ice cream, it gets clean. You make a batch of ice cream, it gets clean. It's far less likely to happen in our circumstance than in theirs. Insurance. I don't think that there's anything that they could have done to prevent it, honestly, because I know that company and I know their operations and I know how serious they are. That just stuff happens. I mean, that's an uncomfortable answer. I really don't believe it was negligence on their part at all. So we're very, very sensitive to food issues. We have the Austin Health Department uses us as an example. I don't think we've ever gone under a 95%. We aren't as clean as I want us to be, but it's one of our values. It's a pillar. Culture of clean is a buzzword.
Have you made a decision on the ESOP?
I haven't made a decision on the ESOP. I'm actually headed to Boston to meet with a guy. Harpoon Brewery just went 49% ESOP, and so he has a current experience. I get to meet with his employees about how they're feeling about it. In Austin, there's a company called Bicycle Sports Shop, Hill Able. He went ESOP and he had some real negative. He lost a guy he loved. So it's not. It sounds dreamy, it's not all dreamy, and so the deal is, one, understanding the ongoing costs and making sure that that's the best place to put that money, and then two, think about unintended consequences, really think it out, really vet it out. So I think it'll be a long process. I think for us it'll be 5 years minimum. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Big decision.
it's a big decision.
Where I think most companies destroy it over is leverage.
Yeah, we are like again Scottish. We're not over leveraging.
It will work, but
Yeah.
you've got the ownership has to be very generous and understanding.
And you have to be able to pay people out when they leave. I mean, you can. What we learned in our seminar, right, is that you can build up to 10-year payout, so you can mitigate it a little bit, but you've really got to think through all the scenarios, right?
It's a very big decision.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate that. I always like that voice. Yes, sir.
How do you decide your next location? Like you said in Houston, it started out too well, so how do you
Yeah, I have. So Houston, I opened and closed 4 stores. Really makes me scared of Houston. The one store we have in Houston now rocks it. But H-E-B bought that center, bought it about 10 years ago. We have a great relationship with them. I'm hoping, I think they haven't announced it, but my gut sense is they're going to turn it into a central market. And maybe there's a place for us because they actually recruited us to be in the center of the second central market in Austin because they felt like the synergy was strong. So I'm scared of Houston. So other towns, I have great sense in Austin. We are looking at San Marcos. We want to buy a building mitigate risk. We are looking at Round Rock. There's not a great spot in Round Rock, so what we're doing is building out in Austinville so that we can create the synergy of local Austin businesses in Round Rock to draw people. Where else are we looking? We get it's real funny, we get a lot of comments that we're discriminatory because we're not on the east side, which I would have accepted about 15 years ago. But now there's all the gentrification, and if we go on the east side, we're really just contributing to the gentrification and the moving people out that have lived there their whole lives. So we want to balance that. We might go in Mueller. Our rule, the reason we had such phenomenal results with only 2 additional stores is that our criteria is just home run. We're not doing any singles, no doubles. We have to at least have a gut sense that it's a home run. We get tremendous requests from Dallas. We were actually in Dallas, 86 to 89, did great. We were in the West End marketplace, but you guys don't remember that period of time. But we did really well, but it was tough. It's tough doing business away from your hub. Our ideal model for growth is to pretty much stay tight and then grow like businesses. So we did open a bakery. It's a partnership with an entrepreneurial employee of Amy's, who's a baker, Erin Fellows. She's opening a second one next year called the Baked House. So it's this kind of cluster of like businesses where we get to be partners with people that we know that they're capable of running a great business. Yes, ma'am.
At what point did you decide to expand your product offerings, such as ice cream cakes and the seasonal packages and strawberries?
We've done chocolate covered strawberries since year 2. We do really poorly in the winter, as Kara told you. What do you mean lose $50,000? So we try and balance that, but I observed a lot of ice cream stores fail because they go, we go down 50% in sales in the wintertime. And so you're paying for that same real estate, so what else can I sell to balance it? And I've seen there's a company called Fruzenglaja, and it really got ridiculous. So there was like a salad bar next to the ice cream bar, and you're losing your focus. And when we opened Amy's, we really thought we're gonna be the best super premium ice cream company, and we're not gonna lose our focus. This is what we're gonna do. We don't do everything. We're gonna be really good at this. So we have diabetic customers. We really, it's so sad when you have a group of people and the one person can't get anything because they're diabetic, working really hard on a diabetic product. But it will never have 15 flavors of a diabetic product. We'll have one, like an alternative wine. Vegan product, same thing. We'll have 2 flavors of a vegan product. But so we are expanding product lines a little bit. The cakes were, natural. It was customer driven. And then, we have a woman who runs our cake department, who's Hannah. She's just so wonderful, and she's growing. It's like it's her business. She's running it. She's growing it. She doubled her cake sales this year, and then the s'mores came out. The s'more money came out of a year that we were losing, and they're like, what can we do? And we love s'mores, and so, but the marshmallows, somehow they're manufacturing them differently than Jet Puff than they used to. I'll take an hour to perfectly roast the marshmallow, and even when you take that kind of care, it just doesn't taste the same. It doesn't squish. It tastes a little bit like I don't know, like plastic. I don't know if they've changed the recipe or that your memory of childhood is just wrong. But so we decided, hey, we can make our own marshmallows, and we love Biscoff cookies. You got them on the Delta Airlines. They give them to you, and they're actually have really very little calories. They're kind of don't have bad oils and stuff, and they taste like crazy good. So we use those. We can make our own, but those are better. So we use those, and then we use Callebaut chocolate from Belgium. So we made bars with Callebaut chocolate from Belgium. Put those together and sold those during the winter, and that fixed the great game. As long as we're testing everything, and we're making sure we're not losing focus, and we're making sure that it all speaks to the same, making people's day, and that the customers speak by the sales, and the sales have been, yeah.
How have you negotiated pricing strategies to achieve the best possible deal with your suppliers?
It's partnering. So it's really partnering and trying to share information so that there's an understanding. So we really get suppliers to share what their margins are and what their lowest margin is, and what kind of volume could we make it to get your lowest price. That really is your rock bottom price. And so we've partnered with other people to get to that price. We definitely shop suppliers, but not in a scary way. Like, we'll never drop a supplier because they're dependent on our business like we're dependent on our major customers' business. But we shop suppliers, we have always have alternatives, and they know that. A little bit of pricing against one another, but still a different approach is being aware of their needs as a business and not trying to Walmart them down so that they lose money but do great volume. If they're losing money every time they sell you something, it's not a good partnership. Yeah.
What made you decide to go into other food markets like Phil's and Memphis?
Honestly, Phil's, it was funny. We bought this property, and for our production facility, it was an old post office and an old gas station, and we definitely didn't think it was a good retail location. So we decided that we really wanted to, a la Bluebell, have we do a lot of tours, and so we wanted to have a kind of a focus shop so that people got the experience and really had built childhood memories and had a connection to our product. So we thought we would open this shop, but we didn't think it would be, we thought it'd be a loss leader. And then we wanted to get another business in because we really believe in synergy, but none of our buddies, we tried all our, like the coffee shops, we tried burger places, there are a lot of other retail buddies. They're like, no, that's a terrible location, I'm not going there. So we said, well, we want some synergy, and we really wanted we wanted Huts to go in next to us, and they just weren't growing. So we go, okay, well, there hadn't been a burger place open in Austin 15 years. And so we opened a burger place. We really bootstrapped it. My husband and I did it. And we did it so that the little Amy's unit would do better. But Phil's took off. It did unbelievable. And that unit, so Amy's opened first and then Phil's open. Amy's sales went up 20% when Phil's open. So the synergy would prove true. And then it turned out we had a huge article in the Statesman, we covered the business section, saying how we pioneered this area. Now everybody's over there. Everybody cool is over there. and all the real estate is really expensive. It was like, phew, we bought that, but now our taxes are really high. So you can't completely insulate yourself. Yeah.
A big topic is employee minimum wage. So how would a $15 employee minimum wage affect me?
It would rock us. But here's what we did. So, go from $7.50 to $15. It never really does that. The government steps it up, and it's never as horrible as it sounds. But minimum wage, this is my opinion, but it's a strong one, is it a regressive tax? Because, and do you know what that a regressive tax is? Like it taxes the poor more than the rich. So the poor spend a greater percentage of their wage on food, the necessities. So if they're buying more food, and you can't raise wages without raising prices, or you can get more lean, and we've done that because we don't want you to be paying too much for the ice cream, and we want to pay people above minimum wage. So we've already compressed that ability to get lean. So you raise minimum wage, it's going to raise prices. It's disproportionately, that price increase is borne by the poor. The ice cream store is not a good example of that, but a fast food restaurant is. And so it's unfortunate. I don't know what the answer is, because the minimum wage is too low and people just pay what they can get away with. But in Austin, it's kind of lucky that it's market driven. You're not going to get a good employee for minimum wage. So we started taking tips, because at least tips are optional on customers. And we actually had like hundreds of complaints from customers that we wouldn't accept tips on credit cards, which is really funny. But they were really mad. They felt like we were mistreating our employees. So we started accepting tips, and now they're making from probably $15 to $17 an hour with those tips. I have to tell you, administratively, that was a nightmare, and I'm really scared of the government. I'm scared of the government. And so we really had to do a lot of work. We actually added a full administrative person to be able to handle it, and handle it well. But now they're making 15 to 17. We've been able to retain better. They can afford to live more. So now we don't pay like minimum. We don't pay minimum server wage like $2.13. We pay above minimum wage as base, and then the rest is tips. So we would now, since we have history and we can prove it, we can prove that nobody's making under 15. If they raise minimum wage, we wouldn't have to do anything right now. But you just. That's what I said. You go to work thinking there's not going to be any problems. That's one of the hardest ones. It's that we desperately want to get wages up for people. And they're hardworking, they're smart, and it's kind of minimum wage. Also, we have some employees that are just gaining work experience, like 16-year-old, that parents have plenty of money. They just really want work experience. Those people don't need that money. They're not counting on it, versus the ones that are working for school. And so minimum wage really puts everybody up. And these guys are like, I don't even need it. And they really say that. So it's kind of nothing's black and white, is it? Yeah.
So along sex and in business, how have you managed to succeed in a competitive business environment without having to be like aggressive women?
So I really benefited from being a woman in business. I really, really benefited, because as all those, really when Amy started, Inc. magazine started the year before we did. Business magazine started, entrepreneurship started getting popular, and then women in business was a subject, right? And so because I'm in the food industry, I'm far less threatening than other women. And so I was on the cover of countless magazines, maybe not because of my success as much as that I was not non-threatening. I was a happy little woman in business. And so it really helped me. I really never dealt with, in my experience, my mother was a huge feminist, so I had a little preparation, but I never dealt with any discrimination, not from bankers, not anybody, not leases. They probably underestimated my intelligence, and so that was an advantage, because you come in and get them from behind. I remember a real estate guy who's with Trammell Crow, he's a friend of mine today. he lied to me, and I found out he lied. I go, you lied. You can't lie. You're not in it for this one transaction you might win, but what's going to happen to you 10 years down the road? You need to build real trusting relationships with people. And so he's like, wrote me a letter later on. Amy, you told me one of the best lessons I could possibly get. I think that's female. I think that's more female. And maybe I was able to do it because I was female. Another one of my favorite, God, this guy's such a good guy. He's the president of a bank today. We had a partnership doing pints, and he was in the back, and we had this hair salon next to us, and these beautiful women, and he was just back there going, oh, and I had to pull him out. I go, you can't do that, That's not okay. These ladies do not want to come in here and get oogled. They're coming in for ice cream. You need to be respectful. This guy was such a good guy, and it never occurred to him that he was discounting people. So it really has been a wonderful opportunity to teach, like your grandpa might say something really uncomfortable, and your grandpa's really nice and doesn't have a bad bone in his body, but you have to say, Grandpa, guess what? We kind of changed the language on that, and So, I mean, that's really the opportunity I've had at Amy's to change people's perspective. It's been great, and I got a lot of feedback to be myself. I think if that's one of my personal lessons that's huge. I did go back and got an MBA at UT, and the reason I went back is because I thought, if I'm not doing ice cream the rest of my life and I move to a different state, then this on my resume might look a little inconsequential. And so I thought, well, I better shore it up with an MBA. And so I went to executive MBA program at UT. And I thought, these guys are so much smarter than I am. And I get to the end, and I'd gotten the Dean's Award, and everybody looked at Amy, And so what I learned is that I'm a little different. I think a little different. I'm not always, I don't have the perfect business articulate language, but I'm real smart, and it's in my differences that I excel and differentiate. And so it was really trust who I am and just be comfortable in there. If I'm wearing a t-shirt, I'm okay, It's who I am. I work for a living. Unlike Dave. I'm just kidding. Yes.
What are the mistakes you'd advise others to avoid when starting a business?
I think the planning piece is the hugest one. Really writing that business plan, and we get caught in this mode where we think we're writing the business plan to sell shares, sell stock, sell your business to somebody else, sell it to yourself. Like, listen, is there an alarm going off that this might not be a good idea? Have I shored up? You're not great at everything. We're all a set of strengths and weaknesses, and you just have to shore up those weaknesses. You don't have to get good at everything. So build a team that shores up those weaknesses, identify those weaknesses, be honest with yourself ahead of time, because once you get into it, you don't need time. And be conservative financially. I have an employee who's just brilliant. She just graduated UT, and she's my finance intern. She did an internship this summer at Wells Fargo, got offered out of college $80,000 with a chance for $80,000 in bonuses. And she turned it down, and she's like, I turned it down, and so she then kind of realized that she's grateful she turned it down because that's not what she wanted to do, and so now she's looking at all these startups, and I said, okay, think about this recession coming, because it's coming, and it's not that you have to be fearful, but just understand, if you're with a startup, think about what it'll look like for you in 4 years if you're not getting a paycheck. So just plan. It's just about planning. You can make the exact same decision, but she's going to put a little bit more money away if she takes the riskier decision. So the biggest is just really planning and doing it for you and being honest with yourself and listening to what you've determined. Yeah.
Do you think there's a little bit of luck associated with success?
Absolutely.
Like you might have just been in the right place at the right time, because there's a lot of great ideas that just never work out.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Austin, Texas, it was last 2 years we've won, it was Austin Business Journal's Ostentatious Award. It was the business that best represents Austin, the values and spirit of Austin. And it's not easy to win. It's a what's that called? Where they put you a bracket. And Tito is in there, Whole Foods is in there. I mean, there's some really great companies in there. And Broken Spoke, and we got it. And that's 100% luck that we grew up in Austin. We grew up together, and our culture is a lot of similarities with Austin because we got it from Austin. But it really was luck. I completely believe in that. Yeah. Great question, because we all, in retrospect, in hindsight, everything's a brilliant idea, right? Or a terrible idea.
Yeah, because on paper
Yeah.
it might be sound, but
Yeah.
just sometimes doesn't work.
Yep. Yeah.
What is diversity in your business? How do you try to make sure that your business is hiring a diverse group of diverse workforce, and how do you manage diversity?
Employees are, because we're a great game, whatever's important to them percolates up, and that's really important to them. And so then they recruit, and they define what diversity looks like for our organization. And I would say we're okay. I think they would say we're okay. I think we have a hard time with both Black and Hispanic groups. We don't get the applicants, so we have to be very aggressive in recruiting. Another thing that's over there is one of our employees, one of our managers, to try and mitigate that, wrote a guide to interviewing, and some of it seems like common sense. Again, it's not appropriate to you guys, but it's a good kind of meta of how you teach others or teach younger people on how to interview. We take things for granted. We think things are common sense. Eye contact. You think it's common sense. It's not. And so she created this interview pamphlet, and she goes out to target schools to try and teach interview skills. Not for us, necessarily, although if she finds a good kid, she's like, hey, come on, come work with us. But just as her personal thing that she does. And it's increased our diversity a lot. Well, you guys are great, and it's Friday afternoon, and it's, I'm sure it's sunny outside.
Any last questions? It's very, very rare to have the opportunity to have somebody like Amy come down here to spend Friday afternoon. So, last chance for some questions.
Although you are welcome to email me at amy@amysicecreams.com if you have any questions, or if you want to be put in touch with somebody else in your industry of interest that I might know.
If not, why don't we give Amy a big round of applause?
Thank you, Diane.
Don't go far.
Okay.
Amy, I know that you like quirky t-shirts.
Yeah.
This is a very limited edition, but the members of Bulldog Investment Company have these, and you are the only outsider to get one of these either.
Oh man, I'm so
Inspired by
honored.
Warren
Thank
Buffett.
you.
Rule number 1, never lose money.
Yeah.
Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1.
That's unbelievable. Thank you.
We thank you very much for being here, and also in honor of you being here, top performing students in our program next semester will receive the Amy Simmons Scholarship.
Oh, serious?
Serious.
Oh.
Congratulations. Thank you for joining us today.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you. Have a great week.
For more information, please visit tlu.edu.